Okay, finally, we've seen the Pan-African Forum. What said they are ready, to take African activists, to another level. They say what? They say it's our time the EU and the UK do something about Africans that are fighting for freedom that are being arrested in other part of Europe, in US, in Norway, in Finland. That is our time they look into this. What's your take as regards Pan-African and associate now calling out the likes of Tinubu to release Nnamdi Kanu and do the info before they take them to international level?
That is a very welcome development, because we've seen that African platforms like ECOWAS, AU have been bought over by the colonial imperialists, the British, the French, the Belgian, and the rest of them in Western Europe. See, before it was AU. If you have a case within your country before, and you go to AU, report to AU, report to ECOWAS and AU, they would do something about it. I mean before, but this time they don't do anything. Why? Because they have, sold out to Britain, to the Spanish, to the Belgians, to the French. They are no longer taking action. They are no longer fighting for the common Africans anymore. That's why Pan-African group are platforms, a podium, African in unity. That's unifying the whole Africa to fight against, inhumanity of most of the African leaders against Africans. So Pan-African activists, they have taken right activism to the next level, and coming together to fight for Nnamdi Kanu, to fight for Ayuba and other freedom fighters that have been, incarcerated in Europe, like Simon Ekpa. Ayuba was incarcerated in Norway, and they have come together to join forces with other African rightists or human rights activists in diaspora to fight this kind of, let me say, menace encroaching entire African continent. It has not started today. Before independence, they were there. The African nationalists, Mandela, Odinga, Milton Obote, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Zlopo Senghor. There are many of them, even Jomo Kenyatta and Julius Nyerere. That was how they started, liberating African countries from the hand grip of British hegemonies and the French hegemonies, the Belgians and the Spanish, even the Portuguese. And they actually fought it, to the level that independence of Africa started, African countries started in 1957. Ghana got it. Before Ghana or after Ghana, before Ghana, Egypt got their own. And then South Africa, they hold South Africa as a result of the kind of resources they have there. And the numbers of the years, the Bola, the Dutch, they stayed in Africa. They complained that they don't know their home anymore. They could not trace their ancestors back to where their origins, where they come from. That's why they stay put in Southern Africa for how many years? Until 1989, they actually left South Africa during the era of Perez de Kuala and the Pieter Botha. Pieter Botha was the last, colonial, president of Southern Africa in 1989. After releasing Mandela, Mandela spent 27 years in prison from 1962 to 1989. Mandela was freed, and South Africa granted independence. And their first ever president, I think, became Mandela. That was in 1992. Yeah, Mandela was made president, I think so, and until he resigned after. So let me tell you, it is a welcome idea, situation, or movement, because failure to do that, you will find out that Britain is coming again. Even if they don't come in person, the kind of agenda the British, the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese are using, against Africa is more painful than colonial era. Because what is happening presently is they throw someone, a political leader, someone they should stay at his back, even against the choices or mandates by the Africans. They will support someone that will be dancing to their costumes, someone they should be, controlling, someone that doesn't have vision to better the Africans. These are the people they should, support, place them at the front, even helping them to rig election. The way they rigged Nigerian election, didn't you see something about it? We all went out en masse and voted Obi. Tinubu because the British, the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Americans, even under Joe Biden regime, he supported Tinubu. That's why our votes in African continent doesn't count. This continent, you vote or you don't vote. The imperialists, they back the back leaders, they back the greedy leaders that will be helping them to siphon our natural resources into Europe. That's why you find out that each and every time we had presidential election in the past, you see European observers, you see American observers, you see